Hey guys, so today I've got for you some of the latest updates that are happening in the Qubic ecosystem, and some of these are going to blow your mind. This is one of the most bullish weeks yet in the Qubic ecosystem. Price has been doing okay, but when you see what's happening in the background, things are really, really bullish, and this project is really gathering pace. So I'm going to discuss that in this video and update you with all this fantastic news. So let's get into it. Yeah, so guys, I'm going to begin with, I'll save the most bullish or interesting news that you guys probably will have an interest in. I'll save that for later in this video, but I want to get started on just some of the news that actually there's news that's really caught everyone's attention, but there's other news that I'm really focused on because I'm really getting to grips with what's going on with Qubic, and I'm sharing with you at the start the news that's the most bullish in my opinion. And at the end, I'm going to share the news that everyone else is going crazy about. And it's probably going to push the price up short term. So the first thing that I'm super bullish about is that this week, Qubic introduced their scientific AI advisory committee. And they've announced then that David Vivancos, a world-class scientist, AI executive advisor, an author, and deep learning lead at Mind Big Data, has joined Qubic's newly formed Scientific AI Advisory Committee. And then Mr. Vivancos will produce a research paper on Qubic and Aigarth, pivotal for presenting at international conferences and peer review. Our new committee will validate and monitor Aigarth's development, document progress scientifically, and strengthen our approach. And then there's a whole blog that they had about this. And then after announcing David later on the week, then they also announced Dr. Sanchez Garcia joins the advisory committee, and again he's going to work with David Vivancos on these papers. There probably will be more announcements for this committee, but this is super bullish news because what we're going to get is peer-reviewed papers. So people that don't actually work for Qubic, people that work outside, that already, you check out these guys' websites. These guys are already a big deal, and they're going to come and do a peer review on Qubic and on Aigarth. So if it's shit, they're going to be like, oh, this is shit. If it's great, they're going to be like, it's great. Now, reading between the lines, Qubic wouldn't bring these guys on board to a scientific committee unless they knew that it was going to be great. And these peer reviews I think a lot of people, I'm following it on X, I don't think they understand the significance of this. Is if these peer reviews work, what it's going to lead to is papers being written. I know papers don't matter to people who are using the technology at times, but what those papers are going to do is they're going to add legitimacy for big tech companies. Then will read those papers and they'll be like, this is a legitimate project. It's not just bullshit crypto. It's a legitimate project and it's got a legitimate solution that we need. Let's partner with them. And once they partner with them, Qubic's price is going to go sky high. When I talk about sky high, I'll talk about it later, but really sky high. So this is super, super, super bullish news that in some respects isn't getting the respect that it deserves. Then next up, we have Qubic. They shared this post about then Aigarth. So just building on that last point, they said, right now, the robots we have are good at specific things like playing games or recognizing faces, but they can't really learn new stuff on their own or think like humans. Aigarth wants to make these robots smarter by copying how living things like animals and people have evolved intelligence. The project has started with basic robot brains called artificial neural networks, or ANNs, as teaching them to learn and grow on their own, just like how kids learn by exploring and asking questions. We're going to need a lot of computer power, which they get through Qubic miners, and to make sure the robot brains don't cheat while learning. Once ready, the system will keep getting better and better, and we are starting work on practically usable AIs on the 4th of December 2024. Now, what they mean there is, firstly, this isn't just like ChatGPT. They're already saying that they've got something that could work like ChatGPT right now, but they're going to actually... This is a true AI that is at the point of just being as clever as a fly or a flea. It's not very clever right now, but during December, so on the 4th of December, they're going to actually start implementing practical AIs that can be used to solve real world problems. And that is a really, really, really big deal. And again, this could be all rubbish, but look at what they're doing. They're bringing in a scientific advisory committee, because anyone could say this, but they're bringing in an advisory committee to peer review this stuff and prove that what Qubic is saying they're going to do, they're actually doing it, and are already capable of doing it. So this is the really big deal here. And then this is, something that when you realize that, gets you thinking super bullish. And when we talk about intelligence, or what true artificial intelligence is, you hear Sergey Ivancheglo talking about this all the time. ChatGPT is a large language model, and it does incredible things, but there's no intelligence in it. It's, ChatGPT is as intelligent as hieroglyphics on a wall. It's, it's the same thing. It's just something created by a human, doesn't think for itself, but it's useful or really impressive. But what Qubic is doing is trying to be the first platform to create true AI. And as I said here, Aigarth aims to create true AI that actually is intelligent and able to reason. This will be an artificial intelligence that doesn't just perform tasks by compiling information and giving outputs. It would instead be able to think abstractly, invent and solve unpredictable new problems. If Qubic can prove that it has already created an artificial intelligence that is at the level of a fly, would that be the first true artificial intelligence? And I'm actually asking a genuine question there, but as far as I know, that would be the first true artificial intelligence that can think for itself. And then I ask, or have other projects already achieved that level of intelligence? Possibly they have, but as far as I know, they haven't. ChatGPT isn't that type of intelligence. It's a really intelligent tool, but it's not intelligent. And if Qubic can make this happen, I've talked about this in other videos, but the ramifications for that are so huge. And then Sergey Ivancheglo, Come From Beyond, shared this, that according to Qubic's hash rate scores, current estimated hash rate is 76 million ITs per second. One AMD Ryzen 9 has 147 ITs per second on average, which gives us slightly more than 500 or 500,000 such processors. This is equivalent to 650 P-flops and puts Qubic network into number 4, top 500 of supercomputers, which is incredible. So what Ivancheglo is saying here is that Qubic bias hash rate is number 4 in terms of supercomputers in the world already. It's, at this rate, it's not going to be long before it's the number 1 supercomputer in the world. Now, this is something, again, that the scientific committee is going to be reviewing, but David Vivankos said, and I like his wording here, he said, if this is true, he didn't say this is true, he said, if this is true, possibly Qubic is already the third top supercomputer in the world, third biggest. So we're just waiting for that proof to come true that this is true, but that's incredible. So this is a distributed data center already, putting all that power in for computational power and for Aigarth. Then Sergey Ivancheglo shared, current Qubic computational power could be sold for $5 million. If all this money is used to buy and burn queues, then price will rise and attract more miners, thus increasing 5 million to, for example, 7 million. Repeat until all hardware is used to mine Qubic. So what he's saying here is that you can sell Qubic's power now to outsource computations to big tech companies that are that need that computational power that's really expensive, and to buy that hardware is too expensive for them. They can just outsource that to Qubic, and it's already worth, according to Ivancheglo, $5 million. But then he's making the point here that he wants to raise the price, and he's really focused on raising the price of Qubic. And the reason he's focused on raising the price is that he wants to attract more miners to Qubic and just create like a black hole where Qubic becomes so valuable to mine that every miner in the world will join the Qubic network, and then he'll use all that computational power for outsourced computations and to power Aigarth at the same time. So let's see when this happens. This is great hypothetically right now, and it makes me super excited because we're in a very early phase, but we have to see when that will happen. And then, I went on to say that CFB isn't interested in price, he's interested in computing power, and he said the real goal isn't to increase the price, it's a side effect of accumulating all available computing power for AI. And that's what this guy's, the mad scientist's goal is here, is to get all the computing power in the world. And if he's going to do that, the price of Qubic needs to be way, 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 way higher. And then I went to make a point then on X, and I said these guys are working every day to make Qubic more attractive to miners. What makes it the most attractive to miners? A high price for Qubic and a low cost to mine it. There's a hint of genius to Qubic tokenomics if they work. Every week the supply will inflate to pay the miners, so that trillion Qubic that's released every week is to pay the miners, but at the same time there will be burns that will offset that inflation or even cause deflation. So the burns happen for every smart contract that's happening on Qubic, and there's expected to be a lot of smart contracts happening, and that's supposed to offset the inflation. There's a name on it, they're calling it equilibrium in Qubic. This means that the miners can keep selling their Qubic, but it won't drive the price down. It will actually drive the price up. What a novel concept. Miners dumping their tokens, driving the price up. So the whole point I'm trying to get here is that the way Qubic going to work is genius. The miners get paid for providing their computing power, but at the same time there's so many burns happening that when those miners dump their Qubic onto the market, because of the burns, the price of Qubic isn't going down because of the dumping. If anything, it's going to start going up while miners are dumping their coins. It's a really, really ingenious concept. I'm not going to explain it in too much more detail in this video, but you really need to look into it. This whole idea of equilibrium and how you can pay all the miners in the world to be on the Qubic network, and at the same time as they're dumping their Qubic for profit, the price of Qubic is going up rather than down because of burns. It's genius, the idea that's got in place here for this. So I said some of the biggest companies in the world could access Qubic's network to run outsourced computations at a fraction of the cost it would take them to buy the hardware themselves. When these computations are run on the network, they will burn Qubic, which of course means that the supply of Qubic will decrease drastically. That decrease in supply will raise the price of Qubic, which will attract more miners because it will be more profitable to mine Qubic. The increase in miners will lead to more computational power that can be outsourced, which will lead to more Qubic burns, which will lead to the price increasing more and more. And the point I was making there, I actually think that I kind of lost a bit of the point of what he was saying, what Sergey Ivanchenko was saying here. Really what he's saying is that when they sell that computational power for about $5 million, they can buy Qubic with it, not necessarily that the burns will be caused by the computations, but I'm sure burns will happen as a result of that too. But it's a really cyclical process that's really, really, really interesting. So I said, when will this happen? They mentioned that they will begin using Aigarth for real-world use cases in December. Could that be the point when they start outsourcing Aigarth for solutions? I don't know, but it'll be exciting to see this play out. We are at the super early stage on this project. We are at the beginning. The engine hasn't even been started. So the engine hasn't been started as in burns. Again, sometimes I write these things in X and I just fire out the comments and then I read back through it a while later. I'm like, oh, now I see what was really meant. And they're really going to start using, on the 4th December, start working on practically usable AIs. But, it could be another year before that happens. So, this post was a little bit wrong where I'm saying that they're going to begin using it for real world cases, but they're actually going to begin developing it for real world cases. It's going to be really, really interesting to see that happen and see the peer reviews of it happening. And then Qubic went on that they shared this point here of banking the unbanked in the world. And they said about 1.4 billion adults worldwide without access to a bank and many lacking internet connectivity. Integrating these individuals into the financial system can bring vast benefits to both individuals and local economies. With fast, feeless and offline transactions, Qubic will be positioned to make a significant difference in these communities. So the fact that Qubic is feeless is a really, really big deal for unbanked people in third world countries. But also, if people don't have internet connectivity, the ability for to have offline transactions, which Qubic has, is a huge deal. And this is from a bullish point of view, this is a big deal for anyone invested in Qubic. But just for the whole reason of actually making a better world, this is a big deal, and this is what Qubic's capable of. And then the last point here, this is what everyone got super excited about this week, and Project X has been announced. So it's going to run over 4 days where they announce everything that's happening in Project X. I'll talk about this in another video next week, but when all the different things about Project X come out, because we've only gone through 1 day of Project X so far, but they said today begins 4 days of X, where each day we'll unveil a huge element of Project X and highlight how this will dramatically benefit all stakeholders in Qubic. What is Project X? It aims to build an incentivized, harmonious collaboration among users, developers, miners, computers, shareholders, developers, and an innovative emissions model, all working together to create a balanced and thriving ecosystem, accelerating equilibrium of Qubic, and that's the really key point here. What they're trying to achieve is this equilibrium, and it just isn't happening with Burns yet because there isn't enough development on the network. So they're trying to bring it about by artificial means right now. And they said, what does this mean? Project X has 4 elements, all aimed at building a thriving ecosystem, and these are the 4 elements. Emissions model, and they've announced this today. That's where these numbers come from. And then the computer control funds, that's the next thing that's going to be announced. Then the protocol extension, and then Q-earn. And we'll talk about those all next week. But the emissions model, they've reduced the max supply from 1 quadrillion down to 200 trillion, which makes this a fraction of Bitcoin's max supply when you take into account Satoshis. So that's a really, really big deal. Is Qubic's max supply's got way smaller, but it's not a big deal to me really, because Qubic is never going to hit 2 to 100 trillion in max supply, or in supply. At least I don't think it is, because Burns are going to bring it down. And then it was never ever going to hit 1 quadrillion supply. So it's just really an arbitrary number. That doesn't really matter. But from a marketing perspective, it's going to be a big deal, because people are going to look at Qubic and see, oh, it's not got such a high, fully diluted valuation. So they'll feel like investing more in it. And then beginning in September, they're going to start reducing the weekly emissions. So in September, the weekly emissions are going to reduce by 15%. And then, similar to Bitcoin halving, the emissions are going to reduce more and more over time. That'll only be for a while, though, because once the burns start coming on the network, they're going to start pushing that weekly emissions back up again, because they want to achieve equilibrium. So if you're burning 2 trillion Qubic every week, you're going to need to be emitting the same amount, and that will be the aim. People are gone crazy about this. Super bullish news. The stuff that's coming out over the rest of the week's going to be super bullish, but the really, really bullish news is what's happening with Aigarth and actually getting peer-reviewed scientific papers in place. I know a lot of people out there don't care about white papers, don't care about scientific papers, but this is important because it's going to bring big tech to Qubic, going to bring partnerships. It's going to make Qubic a big deal and legitimate. And I'm telling you, if Qubic pulls this off, $1 trillion market cap and higher is extremely, extremely possible, because this, if it does what it's meant to do, is some of the most revolutionary technology that's ever been developed. And it's beyond NVIDIA. It's beyond everything if it does what it's supposed to do. So this is a really, really big deal. And Qubic will move if those peer review papers come out and they're like proving that Qubic and Aigarth do what they're supposed to do. So it's times to be getting pre-excited and hoping that they deliver on what they're saying that they're going to do. That's all I've got for you today, guys. I'll see you all on the outside.